Hi everyone. In today's presentation, I would like to introduce Harry Brighouse and his philosophy of education to you. And now let's start. Harry Brighouse was born in Manchester, British, and he is now a political professor at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. And Brighouse researches on the topics of applied ethics, political philosophy, ethics, and philosophy of education. Besides, he has published 3 books, which he shows his educational philosophies and the relationship between education and ableism ideas in those books. And today, I would like to talk about 2 of his books and 1 of his journal to show his ideas about education. The first book I would like to talk about showed his idea about family values and family education, and it is called Family Values, the Ethics of Parent-Child Relationships, and he wrote this with another author, Adam Swift. In the book, Harry Brighouse and Adam Swift argued that the familial relationship goods are produced by the parent-child relationships which people need to develop. And I'll explain relationship goods. Relationship goods are non-material goods that can only be produced and consumed within groups, and which are intrinsically linked to relationships and interaction. And familial relationship goods are, for example, the healthy growth of children depends on their close relationship with their parents, and the fun and challenges brought about by educating their children are also a large part of the lives of parents. And in the book, Brighouse and Swift challenge some of the most common beliefs that many people have about family. They argue and explain parents don't have basic rights to give their children wealth and advantages, and children's interest in autonomy will limit the parents' rights to shape the children's values. I think that means parents shouldn't help their children to shape their own values by giving them money or making them feel they have more advantages over other children. And parents should allow their children to shape their own values. Brighouse's idea about this is quite different from the common beliefs that many people hold, because traditionally, people may think children's family and their parents' values will eventually shape their children's values, and parents should be the role of guiding them and in order to help their children to shape their values, but not let children form the values from themselves. Conversely, Brighouse and Swift think parents should leave their children to shape their own values. So I would like to make you guys think about your own values and how does your family influence your values. And in Brighouse's another book, On Education, Thinking in Action, he expresses his views on the modern educational system. In the book, Brighouse basically thinks children should have 4 fundamental interests. First is having the ability to make their own choices about which value they want to adopt. And the second is having the abilities and skills to be economically self-sufficient as adults. And the third is experience a variety of activities so that they are able to develop in their personal lives. And the last one is developing a sense of justice. And although the main goal and main idea of modern education system is all students should have equal opportunities to enjoy the benefits of the education system, Brighouse doesn't think this is perfect enough. Instead, he argues that schools should follow a fundamental principle that is often overlooked, the moral principles of the children to be taught. And to analyze the 4 basic interests that Brighouse thinks all children should have, I will further explain them by giving examples. The first one, which is having the ability to make their own choices about which value they want to adopt. It is related to modern world and globalization. As we all know, globalization has eliminated many borders in the modern world, including cultural border. So, therefore, the dominant values in today's society are mostly the same, and children may be deprived of the possibility of adopting the same values and simply accept the same dominant values. Brighouse is afraid this kind of situation will happen, which is children unconsciously accept these common values, and parents do little to improve the situation. And I think it's somehow related to the family values that I just talked about. Brighouse think schools should leave the students to shape their own values, and it's also good for students to have their own values. The second interest that Brighouse argues is having the abilities and skills to be economically self-sufficient as adults, because traditionally people may think this is about family education, but not the problem of educational system. But Brighouse blames modern educational system in this situation, and I'll give you an example to explain this situation. Many European countries, including UK, found their children are more and more economically dependent on their parents even after they are graduated from colleges, but not self-sufficient enough. So Brighouse suggests it's necessary to make children have the abilities to be economically self-sufficient as adults. Therefore, schools should help students to have such ideas in advance so that they will not still be over-dependent on their parents and not have their own financial independence when they become adults. Brighouse also cares a lot about children's personal development. In his third point of children's basic interest, which is that children experience a variety of activities so that they are able to develop in their personal lives. Brighouse embodies the idea that schools should not only teach students academic content, but also personal development. I think this means schools should have more extracurricular activities that involve the students to join in and help students find their abilities and skills. Also, schools should encourage students to join in some competitions, community service, etc., but not just let students focus on books and academic content. In his last point of children's basic interest, which is developing a sense of justice, it is very similar to his third argument. Brighouse is skeptical of current public policies of tolerance and social justice. He argued that the state's goal is educational. He argued that state's approach to equality in education was primitive and inefficient because today the state's goal is educational tolerance and equal access to education for every children, not individual development. He also argues that the current education system does not provide truly equal opportunities for children's development. I think this means that schools should also pay attention to the cultivation of children's personal development while teaching classes. They should try to train students with a sense of justice and exemplary qualities. So, in this book, Harry Brighouse really raises many important problems about modern education system and public policies. And in his journal, Civic Education and Liberal Legitimacy, Harry Brighouse argues his idea about the relationship between education and liberalism. He argues that every student must be taught liberalism, but special courses cannot be used to form this concept. Instead, schools should provide a social system and their learning environment to be adapted to liberalism, in order to let students themselves understand liberalism in this environment. To make it clear and easier to understand, I think his core thoughts on this point are very similar to his other views. Schools and families should not directly guide children to form their values and views, but should let children understand and accept themselves through the environment. In conclusion, I think Harry Brighouse has his own very unique opinions about modern education system and family education. I would like to end my presentation here, and I want you to think about whether you like his philosophies of education and the feasibility of his educational system of family and school. Thank you for watching.